plenty of that to go around right now, let me tell you, the world we're living in, so. Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah, that's very true. Very true. I wish they reported on more positive things to kind of balance it out a little bit, you know? Because I like to read about good things, you know, not all bad stuff. Just makes you sad. That's true.
I'll call this meeting to order. Ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ask my Boy Scout to lead us.
Would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you wish to participate, we're going to have our invocation by Miss Carly Hargrove, and she says it's
secular. Tonight
secular. There you
maybe
go.
it might be the first secular invocation the city's ever seen. All right. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, city staff, and members of the public, both here and watching afar. I am here representing the members of our community who align with freethinkers, atheists, agnostics, and humanists. I stand before you not offering a prayer, but a mindfulness journey in a short period of time with 5 points to guide you through tonight's meeting. Empathy. It will guide your heart while realizing you are here not only for your personal interest, but the interest of the entire city, regardless of the district you serve. Compassion. Understanding everyone's opinions matter and leading with an open mind and willingness to compromise. Leadership. Within the realms you are entrusted into this position, and not to take issues lightly, but also consideration for differing perspectives. Focused by staying on task, understanding policies and procedures, open to guidance by the city staff you entrust, and leaning on their experience as a tool for success. Passionate for plans of the future while celebrating the many traditions of our past. Transformed by having 5 individual objectives into one team, leading with force and alliance, as the problems we face did not come down from the heavens, instead from bad decisions, and good human decisions can change them.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilmember Mintz.
Here.
Councilmember Scott.
Here.
Councilmember Klink has an excused absence. Mayor Pro Tem Buildering.
Here.
Mayor Wright.
Here. Closed session announcements, none. Any changes to the agenda? None. Okay, announcements. These proceedings may be viewed on demand on the City of 29 Palms website at www.29palms.org. You may also live stream this meeting by going on our website and clicking on the meeting agendas link. Awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations. Introduction of Park and Recreation's newest employees.
Good evening, everybody. The Parks and Recreation Department has 2 new employees, Curtis McCoy and George Pena, and they're both here this evening to introduce themselves to you, so I'll have them come up.
Hello, my name is Curtis McCoy, and I'm a new member of the Park Rec team. Thus far, it's been a great experience. I feel like I've been learning a lot, and Well, actually, it's always been kind of a passion of mine to get into and be involved in the community and the youth. And I kind of discovered this passion in my years over at the Boys and Girls Club of Yucca Valley. And I worked there for about 5 years. And during my time there, I just kind of discovered I love being involved. I love helping out the youth. And of course, I love athletics. So as far as the Park and Rec experience thus far, it's certainly been everything I've been looking for. And I can't wait to help and provide what I have to offer to the community in the city of 29 Palms. I also want to say thank you to Carrie and her team over at Park and Rec. They've been incredibly welcoming and making us feel like we're a part of the family immediately. And also all the parents, even the coaches that we've been associated with thus far with volleyball and soccer. They've been incredibly friendly, supportive, and just a joy to work with. So I can't wait for everything moving forward with Park and Rec. So thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jorge Guzman, and I am from Texas, La Jolla, Texas. I found interest in Parks and Recs just from, being involved in just playing basketball, pickup in general, having the kids around and stuff like that, just playing with them. I've always wanted to have some kind of mentorship in making an impact in that kind of way. Would be, kind of like a dream for me. So I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Carrie. And I really look forward to continue working with you guys and, getting to know all of y'all. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No need to thank me. These guys are great, and I look forward to all the great things that they're going to be able to do with us. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have council comments and reports of meetings attended. Councilmember Scott.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Marine Corps birthday pageant on base, as well as the Veterans Day event at Freedom Plaza.
Okay. Councilmember Nitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also attended the Marine Corps pageant cake cutting. Then we had a great lunch at the Chow Hall, steak and lobsters. That was good. And then went to the veterans event. We had 3 great speakers, including our mayor, gave a very inspirational speech. And I want to thank Park and Rec, Carrie and Scott. You guys put on a great event. I think it's going to really grow the way you're going to do it. Let's see. Oh, I parked cars on Saturday up at Sky's the Limit, and it was very well attended. But it's very amazing how many visitors are coming from Italy, China. I mean, there's half the crowd up there are from another country. So it's really great that they're experiencing our night skies up there. It was really dark that night, too. And that's about it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes. First, I want to welcome the 2 new employees, Justin Bieber and Bad Bunny over there in the corner. That's the nicknames they got from the kids. I probably helped that. Volleyball. Really doing an outstanding job in volleyball, so thank you. Continue great things you do for basketball season. I can't wait. Hope you have the same energy after basketball season. Yeah. I attended the Marine Corps ball uniform pageant and the luncheon on base. The veteran ceremony was well participated and awesome job once again. Your Park and Rec team always knocks it out of the park. And on the Marine Corps birthday, I bounced around from local establishments celebrating the birthday at their little festivities they had in town. So that's all I have.
All right, good. Also want to say welcome to the new staff. They did a pretty good job calling that game last night. Flag football. So they're pretty good. Hayward, I think something was wrong with his clock, though, because it was a long 9 seconds, but but it was good. So welcome. Glad you guys are here. And also, I did attend the pageant on base, and I did get my lunch, too. I had to go back to work to do some stuff, but I got it done in time to get my lunch, so had my lobster and all that good stuff. And then also attended the Veterans Day event. Carried fantastic job. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate it. And then I also went to Fontana. They had a mayor's roundtable with the administrator from HUD from DC, and I can't remember his name. So, but anyway, he was there. He was the guest speaker, and basically we just got an opportunity to talk to him about our housing issues in California, or more specifically in San Bernardino County. And you know, he said he was aware, and they just kind of told us about different programs that were available. I wrote them all down, Larry, so I'm going to get them to you. Just different programs that are available to communities or to cities and things like that, that we can apply for, you know, to help our citizens. So that was, you know, the good part about it. To me, you know, he's still from DC, so I think they don't listen as well as they should, but that's just me. But it was still a good event and very well attended. So, and I think I did some other stuff, but I can't remember. So, all right, consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately by the city council. The public will be given an opportunity to comment on consent calendar items prior to city council action. Anybody want to remove a consent calendar item? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to remove item number 7, please. Award a contract, construction services contract to Courtmaster Sports, just for explanation from, just a little bit more detail from the city manager.
Okay. Open it up to public for any comments on consent calendar items. Bring it back. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz,
All right.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 401.
Okay, so number 7.
Okay, so what was your question, sir?
I just would like to see if the public had any, if the public wanted to learn a little bit more about what's going on at Lucky Park.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so what I'll do is I memorize by reading as well, just like Mac. So I'll give a little background. So at the February 15th, 2023 City Council meeting, the City Council approved the 23-24 Community Development Block Grant Funding Prioritization for the repair and resurface of the existing basketball courts within Lucky Park. So those courts that are there have not been resurfaced in over 10 years, and they're in deplorable condition. So we got some feedback from the community. They were interested in pickleball and tennis courts. And now that we have that beautiful gymnasium downtown, we can host more indoor events for basketball, volleyball, things of that nature. So it was determined that we should probably convert one of those courts back to tennis, a full-size tennis court, as well as pickleball, and resurface the other two back to basketball courts. So that's what this is for. The RFPs were put out, let me check my notes here. October 2nd was the opening date, and the deadline was set for October 23rd. We actually only had one company respond to the RFP. So
Thank you very much. That was very good.
you're welcome.
A lot of people want to play pickleball, so I just wanted to let the
I do
community
too.
know.
I do too, for sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, anybody want to comment on that one? Bring it back. Looking for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve item number 7.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Mintz,
All right.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 401.
Thank you. Okay, public hearing. Non-conforming buildings and uses.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a cleanup to our development code, clarifying some language on standards for reestablishment of nonconforming uses or structures in the event of damage or destruction, and adding language for legally established lots that do not meet current development standards of the underlying zone district. We view this as a cleanup of the development code. We ask that the city council find the development, that the project is exempt from CEQA. We adopt the ordinance and approve the development code amendment, DCA 23, number 2.
Any questions for staff? Open to the public. Anybody got anything on this one? Oh, CEQA.
That's CEQA, yeah. California Environmental Quality Act.
Bring it back. Looking for a motion or further discussion.
Pretty cut and dry. So is there an ordinance that we have to read for this number?
Yeah, there is an ordinance on that.
Okay, what? 324? Just ordinance 324? Okay. Well, I move that we pass the ordinance 324 and find it exempt from CEQA and amend the development amendment chapter for 19142.
Second. Roll call.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 401.
Okay. Number 10, vacation home rentals.
Okay, this this particular development code amendment has been through the Planning Commission a few times earlier this year. The City Council asked us to look at several particular issues that were brought up to the community. The Planning Commission took all of them in turn and made certain recommendations. Instead of going through all of them, I'm going to highlight the ones that they did recommend to change, that things are changing. One of the requests from the City Council was to reduce or eliminate the insurance requirement because that's a liability that the city is not involved in, so that has been removed from the code. We also are imposing conditions of approval on vacation home rentals now. So to say you are allowed for X amount of bedrooms, X amount of parking spaces, to be very clear on licensees what they are allowed to do and what they are not allowed to do. And there's been some back and forth on the number of vacation home rentals per parcel, whether or not you get one for the whole parcel or one for a primary unit and a secondary unit separately. The commission recommended that either one of those approaches may be acceptable, but needs to be very clear on the permit what is actually permitted. I could go through, if the council likes, I can go through these other issues, but the commission did not recommend changes to any of the other issues. They determined that the existing regulations were sufficient. Just for the council's edification for today, there's a maximum of 500 vacation rentals permits citywide. As of today, and this is a very dynamic number, it can change day to day, there were 485, there's one more issued today, 485 vacation rental permits as of today. I don't know why that date's wrong. As of, oh, there it is. I'm sorry. I'm misreading my own slide here. There were 484 permits at the maximum in June. As of today, there were 455. So we've seen a decrease since June of the number of vacation rental permits. We have 11 applications pending, and there is currently no waiting list for anyone to apply. So our recommendation is that you find the project these modifications exempt from CEQA for the development code amendment, adopt the ordinance, and approve the development code amendment. And I understand that there's a lot of public comment on this one.
Okay. Anybody got any questions? Oh, you're on the wait. Okay, open up to the public. And read these first. Okay, I got some I gotta read. I'm gonna do my best. I thought they was gonna be long, but they not. They don't seem to be long, because I don't think it's fair that I have to read when you guys only get 3 minutes. So I was gonna put them on the clock, but I think I can do it. Yeah. 'Cause that's fair. Okay, so the first one, Dare City Council. Regarding vacation home rentals, also known as short-term rentals, the city needs to be more friendly to this type of business. First, the city limited the number of VHRs to 500, which is a limitation on that business. Second, the city limits the number of units that can be owned by one person or entity at 5 units, which is another limitation on the businesses. Thirdly, the requirement that a VHR owner take a good neighbor course every year is unnecessarily onerous. I probably got that word wrong, but and is also a deterrent to the business, possibly for one or more of these reasons. The number of permitted VHRs in the city has actually decreased recently. If the city is to be in favor of tourism and new businesses in general, it is important to be less antagonistic to new businesses. Most residents, if they are honest with themselves, know that the VHRs among the neatest and best kept homes compared to ordinary resident homes that are not VHRs. As far as I know, there is not a requirement that all residents take a good neighbor class every year, but maybe there should be. Please consider reducing the frequency of the good neighbor class to once every other year or every third year instead of every year, so we do not discourage more businesses from coming to 29 Palms. Thank you for consideration. Respectfully, George Malopoulos. Dear City Council, I apologize I'm unable to attend in person tonight. I'm one of the first VHR permit holders and one longtime supporter of VHR regulations. Helping draft the 2015 regulation that was with the Planning Commission. I am one of the longest holding VHR permit holders since August 2015. I am concerned that the VHR recommendations from the Planning Commission do not adequately address the issues we have discussed for the past year. I ask that you do not approve the recommended VHR changes because they do not adequately address the issues. I support the following items that are not included in the current recommendation. VHR ownership limits. Grandfather those at the current cap and reduce it to 2 to 3 for future VHRs. Create neighborhood caps, especially in high-density neighborhoods like Indian Cove. Eliminate the ability to build straight to VHR businesses in residential neighborhoods. New VHR construction should be treated as new business construction, especially since VHR reside in the fabric of a residential neighborhood. Make all new SFH construction wait 2 years before it can be VHR'd. That's what a residential mortgage requires you to live in the home before you can LTR it. Level the playing field for casual VHRs. Eliminate the privilege business VHRs have against casual VHRs in the current regulation in terms of fees and use requirements. Support casual VHR operators like myself by creating a homestay or casual VHR category or VHR permit, which was the original ethos of Airbnb and the sharing economy. Casual VHR operators are not run for businesses or profit first, but must comply with all regulations, including higher costs. 29 Palms regulation changes earlier this year negatively impacted casual VHR by increasing costs and compliance requirements. What is a casual VHR scenario is where someone might not want VHR full-time due to illness, financial change, hybrid living, or renting a friend or family. Here is a longer explanation. It's a website. I would be happy to meet and go over a casual VHR scenario since I know this is not the classic for-profit business situation, but I assure you it's completely legitimate VHR permit use case. I do not support the good neighbor class requirement for each year. As one of the original VHR permit holders and someone who taught this class, there is not enough material nor merit to require a yearly update. Please return this to the Planning Commission to redraft recommendations that will address these issues, which have been raised by the community for over a year. Thank you for consideration. Heather Vincent. Dear Council, as you can tell by reviewing the STR recommendation from planning, the commissioners ignore some of council's recommendation. Why is that? Since planning commissioners are effectively appointed for life, they do not have to answer to residents as council does. Also, it's clear that planning commissioners tend to favor the rights of business owners over the rights of residents. Most recently, this was evident when several residents spoke in opposition to commercial camping and rural living zoning. Yet planning favored 3 non-resident business owners over 8 residents in their recommendation. discipline. Council members who are obligated to be responsive to their constituents should override planning by making the STR code updates you recommended and planning rejected. Limit the number of permits per entity to 2 to 3. Place limits on purpose-built STRs and direct planning staff to write code addressing density. I still recommend adjacing as being a way forward on density, even if it's as minimal as preventing STRs from being next door to each other when permitted parcels share a border. Planning says adjacency is difficult, but sometimes doing the right thing takes more work. I'm hoping council does the right thing and, again, direct planning to do the difficult work on adjacent. If council doesn't agree on density this time around, then please support STR moratoriums to impact areas like Indian Cove and Hanson Tract. Nostalgic for the community I spent so much time in while growing up, I put everything I had into my 1962 family home, which was one of the early builds in Indian Cove, but I am constantly playing whack-a-mole and cannot relax. ORVs regularly rip up my land. 3 of the 4 homes near me have STR permits, and I'm threatened with being surrounded by commercial camping and luxury resorts. This is not the life I expected when I relocated to Twin Palms. Currently, the city is approaching STRs, commercial camping and resort development, and rural living and unrelated issues, but in total, they will have an adverse effect on the quality of life on our neighborhoods, and the council doesn't act. Please help us enjoy the city we've committed to through taking a holistic approach to tourism development in residential neighborhoods. That means creating a vision for what we want in our rural living areas and considering the impact of STRs, camping, and resorts together instead of separately. Being proactive on updating the STR ordinance with reasonable construction, owner, and density limit is a great start. Thanks for your service. Sincerely, Senator Bernard. Whew. All right. It's time for the city to listen to its residents. The city has continued to put profit over residents. Those who live, work, and spend here are left behind and clean up long after the tourists are gone. Yet we don't seem to get a fair and equal seat at the table on the issue. As I look out the windows of my home, whether north, south, east, west, I see a VHR or multiple VHRs in every direction. Not beloved neighbors. That is more than enough for any one neighborhood. It's sad that those of us left are feeling squeezed. We have repeatedly been shown we have no voice or choice in this issue. The bottom line is the city can't resist the lure of the money. I think city officials can truly feel the squeeze or impact if they don't live in high VHR dense neighborhoods like mine. Their smirks and snide remarks indicate they think this is all a joke. A planning commissioner member lamented at a recent meeting that she didn't know what the problem was. Residents have time and time again spoken and represented evidence of what the problems are. The commissioners finally settled on the problem residents have with the VHRs is that we just don't like to see other people have fun. It's not that any of us are against fun, but these are our homes and neighborhoods where we conduct our daily lives. This isn't Disneyland. The vacationers want to get their money's worth. I get that. They're on vacation. We're not. This is where we live. If the commissioner thinks fun is repairing my fence and yard where VHR parties drove through my yard, I can assure you that was not fun, nor is hearing a constant thump, 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 thump in my chest at all hours from loud music any fun, or being frightened in the middle of the night of what thought were gunshots at 2 a.m. Turns out the VHR next to me was shooting off fireworks, all in the name of fun, because that's okay, right? I don't consider picking up trash after weekend fun either. Would the commissioner or any other city staff like to spend some fun time repairing our private road? Would they like to really kick fun up a notch and pitch in a bag of asphalt from their own funds, or give up part of their weekends to repair our private road? I don't consider that time spent fun. I would venture if the city officials were to spend a park-centric weekend, although these events aren't limited to weekends, with any one of us in high-density neighborhoods, they may see it differently. Staff reported that there aren't that many violations reported. For me personally, I feel what's the use when violations are reported, staff comes back with some excuse, always in favor of VHRs. If they come back at all, my personal favorite, well, we'll get back to you on that one. I'm still waiting. A resident shouldn't have to place multiple calls to the city that go unanswered or wait months for a reply. Why is it imperative on me to spend my limited time documenting and reporting violations when they go unheard? And that's from Deborah Shea. Whew. And even though I didn't get through all of that, all of the council members had a chance to read it, so. Okay. Mr. Kruschak.
Before my time starts, I just want to preface this with, yes, I am on the Planning Commission, but I'm not here as the Planning Commissioner. I recused myself from all the discussions that the Planning Commission had on VHRs. In this open forum, today I'm here as a 29 Palms resident, as a VHR owner, and as somebody who's dealt with the question for a long time. When we first were relooking at the regulation, I mean, I heard a lot of things like, you know, we would be inundated with vacation home rentals, and myself and one other member of your group said, you know what, economic factors are probably going to take care of that. And what we found is that economic forces did. There was a saturation report that was met, and we met our equilibrium, and I think you can see that. We're at 455, we have a 500 limit, we have nobody on the waiting list, and that's been pretty stable. I also found that a lot of EHR permits have been turned back in. I think it was the numbers that somebody gave me was 150 since 2015. So it is not that we're going to get inundated. They are a avenue for people that would like to spend time in a home rather than a hotel. And I don't think what's brought out enough is the fact that the TOT money that's gained from, that we get that as a city, yes, we do get money, but that allows us to pay for a lot of things. It allows us to pay for portable showers for the homeless. It allows us to pay for rental on navigation centers and a lot of other things. The density issue, which comes up a lot, and I get back to the economic factors, I think the density issue would be solved by economic. 2 VHRs next to each other, one's going to do well, one's not going to do well, and eventually somebody's probably going to turn in their permit. And I've seen that in my neighborhood. In my neighborhood, and I live in rural living, and I'm surrounded by VHRs, and they're quiet and they're well done, and I don't think we bring up enough. A lot of them were distressed homes, and now they're not. And when these homes go back on the market, you know, they're not going to go back on the market as affordable housing, generally. We need to deal with affordable housing, I agree, and we have projects to do that. I don't think we need to make the VHR as the boogeyman, the reason why we don't have affordable housing. I mean, a lot of people have invested money in that. So the only thing I would add at this point is that, you know, we've got this regulation, we've looked through it. I think it's time to just settle this thing. You know, the one thing I know that this is good is because no one group got everything they wanted. It was a compromise. And as a VHR owner, I'm required to go to a good neighbor training at $65 a year. I pay $385 a year to keep the license. And it's been positive for the city, and I just wanted to make those points. Thank you.
Okay. Kat Tilly Jones.
Hello. I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council for the opportunity to speak tonight. And I want to thank the city staff and welcome our new interim city manager. I would like to express my frustration with the planning committee, which ignored direction from the city council. In a meeting on February 18, Mayor Wright, Mayor Pro Tem Bill Durain, and Councilmember Octavio Scott favored limits on purpose-built STRs, including possibly requiring owners reside in or rent long-term new residential construction for some period before they could be allowed to apply for an STR permit. I know it's tiresome to keep relitigating this, but I would like to advocate against new construction that receives building permits for single-family residents immediately receiving VHR permits. These structures aren't and never will be homes. We have a 5-bedroom, as many of you know, purpose-built STR on the property next to ours. And we get the thump, 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 and we get the trespassing, and we have the cleanup. And if Field Trip decides to sell it, it would be housing out of the reach of any 29 Palms resident. But more than that, the lack of residential requirements in STR ordinances incentivized out-of-town developers to jump on the straight-to-STR construction bandwagon instead of encouraging developers to build needed residential homes. You don't need me to tell you that citizens of 29 Palms desperately need housing. I was so moved by the equity and social justice element that's in the city's development code, which speaks very eloquently of the lack of affordable and decent housing in 29 Palms. I recognize the tide of new construction of SDRs has ebbed, that the TOT income is down, but some new event like the pandemic could easily reignite the land grab. I, again, express my frustration with the Planning Committee, and also for ignoring direction from City Council and comments from residents, and frustration with corporations like Field Trip, Hip Camp, Yonder, monetizing our neighborhoods and our rural living zones and using them as profit centers. I ask that you do not approve the current suggested changes to code. Thank you.
Next, I have Heidi Hurd.
Good evening. Most of you should have received an email that I sent you earlier. I sent it yesterday. Hopefully you had a time to look at it. It's time for our city leadership to listen to those of us that chose to live here, raise our families here, and actually vote in the city, and not to the outside entities that only want to line their own pockets. I know that at least a couple of city leaders will tout that their families have been here for a few generations, while many of us have been here for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 plus years also. I'm going on 35 plus years here. When does my voice count? Those of us that voted to put you into office put our trust in you to do what's right for those of us that live here. We chose to live here because it was a nice small city, not because it was a tourist destination. We have a housing crisis, not a recreation crisis. Do your part to save 29 Palms as a city with neighbors and neighborhoods, and not a cluster of business districts. Thank you.
John Tally Jones.
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, thank you for allowing me this time. It's been since last spring that the City Council directed the Planning Committee to make recommendations on new rules for granting STR licenses, and I think they came up short. I want to suggest 3 changes to the STR rules. The City Council has heard these in some form or another, and some of you have expressed favorable opinions of them in the past. 1, keep STR licenses to 2 per entity. An entity being an individual, a trust, an LLC, a partnership, or any combination of those things. This was the recommendation of the ad hoc committee of 2021, but it was not adopted in 2022. If it had been adopted, if it were to be adopted, any entity with more than 2 licenses could be grandfathered in, so no one would lose out who is currently in that situation. 2, no STR license should be considered for any new build for 3 years after occupancy has been granted, unless the owner resides in the structure for 7 months out of the year and is registered to vote at that address. I believe the effect of this would be to reduce the number of purpose-built boutique hotel experience structures. It would instead allow space for actual community members to be part of this economy, and it could even result in more affordable housing stock. 3, no STR license should be granted to a parcel that touches a property that already has one. One easy way to affect this is to keep a parcel map. It's obvious. With STR parcels identified with a mark, or the letter S for STR, or V for VHR, etc. One look at the map will illustrate the disallowed properties that share a border or meet at a corner, etc. It's not an ideal solution to the density issue, but it is a step in the right direction for neighborhood integrity. Again, thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Susan Peplau.
Good evening, everyone. I've added a couple things, so I'm probably going to read. And as much as I appreciate Mr. Jones's always great cadence in his points, which I really appreciate, I don't necessarily always agree with some of the ideas behind them. So these are in no particular order. I actually support that we don't change the limit of VHRs per parcel. I feel that that flexibility fosters a balance between opportunity, financial stability, as well as like preservation of housing stock. People have an ADU, they may not be going out into a neighborhood, for instance. In regards to changing limits from like the maximum limits that you can have for VHR licenses, I can see by the attrition we lost about 10% of our VHRs. We were actually had kissed 500 and went into a waiting list at one point. And what you find with the attrition is it's not the locals that are leaving. And the locals predominantly are the ones that have multiple licenses. So that's just a little food for thought there. And I don't really feel that the Planning Commission ignored the direction from City Council. City Council pushed this back down to Planning Commission, which went over it multiple times with several agendas. I attended those sessions. Not everybody here who's stating otherwise did. And they went over these points and they are making the recommendation, which I feel was from a thoughtful process, not a knee-jerk reaction. Then there was a couple other changes just to the ordinance itself, some little tweaks, noise mitigation plan. There's no place to put that in citizen serve, so keeping it on file, it's just a clerical change, maybe in the ordinance itself. I would like for you guys to consider changing under operational standards to consider rewording for ID verification. I think that right now we're kind of requesting like an address and a driver's license number, but it's not validated. So if we have ID verification, it gives more security. It's just a positive tweak there. I don't feel that parking changes should change for that much either. It's great now. It's 2 off-street on-site parking spaces, putting in paved. We live rural living here. And a lot of people want you in our vacation rentals and rural living. And so if you're living on a dirt road, you're supposed to like pave your driveway now. That seems burdensome to some. And I actually have property that's on a paved street in 29 Palms with 2 houses with no paved driveways. So that still happens. And then I also feel there's a couple other changes like the VHR class. I was hit or miss on that. And when we get to that, I'd be happy to provide any stats to you as to like where we're at with that, how many people that have attended and the feedback that we're getting. And I could do more if you need to. All right, thank you.
Jonathan Hume.
Yeah, hey, Council. I'm Jonathan Hume. I live in the unincorporated sphere of influence area at Desert Heights, and I do own a couple of short-term rentals myself outside, in unincorporated county. But just a few things. I do watch things here in 29 with a keen interest. And just a few miscellaneous points, no particular order. I mean, first of all, the county just completed a study, which you may or may not be aware of the impact of short-term rentals on housing in unincorporated county. You know what they found? No impact on housing. I encourage everyone to read that study. Effectively no impact on housing, including price of rentals, no significant impact on housing prices or rental prices or housing availability. So I encourage everyone, please read that study. Because even though the data wasn't from 29, if we studied 29, you know what we would find? The exact same thing. I pretty much guarantee you. The proposal to limit or to reduce from 5 to 2 ownership, it really is punishing people who want to invest in this community and who vote with their own hard-earned money. And the number of such people who own 3 or more short-term rentals in 29, we don't have the numbers in front of us today, but when we've looked at those numbers before, that number is like, you could count them on 1 or 2 hands. So why do we want to punish these people? Why is there so much focus on punishing these people? I don't understand it. You know, as has been mentioned, the number of permits is declining, not rising. The whole thing about new construction, again, I don't understand this at all. 29 ought to be doing whatever it can to encourage new construction. There's very little new construction in the city. Structures last, they typically have a lifetime of 75 to 100 years, and they'll be used for a variety of purposes over their lifetime. And to try and discourage people from building, oh no, you can't use it as a short-term rental. That structure is only gonna be a short-term rental for, what, 10 years? You know, maybe 15? You know, so the lifetime of a structure is 75 to 100 years. And to discourage people from building by barring the use as a short-term rental right off the bat just seems like completely bananas to me, and I don't get it at all. I would also echo Ms. Peplow's comments about the requirement for paved parking spaces in the new draft ordinance. That makes no sense when, you know, yeah, in the center of town, sure, but when people have no paved driveway, like what sense do paved parking spaces make? Like none. So definitely revisit that. Thanks.
Okay, I don't have any more green slips. So I'm gonna bring it back. Oh.
I just wanted to also echo the support of you know, the purpose-built STRs, that I do think they need to look at that, like Field Trip and these monstrosities they're building. I don't think that meets the residential characteristics. As for the paved driveways, we manage like probably 4 or 5 rentals right over in Freedom Plaza area, and none of them have driveways. So I think that the driveways that are paved. So I think that would be a limitation as well. So I just wanted to echo those 2 items. So thank you.
I bring it back to council, and what I want to suggest is that we basically like look at one at a time, if everybody's good with that.
I'm good with that, but I would like to make a comment about the planning commission getting a little bit a bad rep on this. When the council sends things back, which obviously this has been sent back to them, they've talked about this at least 3 different times, and not just 3 different sessions, 3 different times. Their job is to discuss it, get community input, and then send recommendations back to the council. And then it's up to us to accept or tweak the ordinance. It's not their job to write the thing in the exact way it's going to be written. So I just feel that, you know, then they did listen, because obviously they wrote this report. I got the whole staff report here. This is it. And actually, Mr. Khrushchev said it pretty good. I was on the commission when we spent 7 months doing this, and with all the people who spoke, and then all those people have spoke here and at the planning commissions, no one side got everything they wanted. I think there's been a compromise in this city on this particular issue, and I still want to make sure people understand we were the first ones in this valley, and even the county. I don't know how many cities, but we did it before the county. We had regulations on there, so it didn't just explode. And then it became an issue because it did explode. And then we went back and revisited as a council and a commission and put in more rules. So we have a lot of rules to this. So I'm just saying that this is not, I don't feel anyway that the city and the planning commission is not listening to all the citizens. Yes, some of you aren't getting exactly what you want in this ordinance, but I think it's been a compromise. That's just my opinion, and I'm willing. I mean, I like your idea about just going through one at a time.
You got anything, Councilman?
Not yet.
Okay, so Keith, we want to do one at a time, starting with the first one.
All right. The number of licenses per permittee. Currently,
Yes.
the limit is 5.
Okay, so
The commission voted to keep that as is.
Well, I think, the recommendation originally was 2 to 3. After all this discussion we've had, I think 3 is a good number, and we can grandfather the ones that are 5, but limit it to 3.
I agree with that. I just think 5 is too many because we can have corporations come in and things like that. So 3 is a good number for me. Okay. So
Okay.
put that down.
Let me make the notes on here so we all.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll make the council's comments here in red so it's easy to identify. Next was the elimination reduction in insurance requirement. That was per the direction of council, and the fact that council made a special directive to that effect.
Yeah.
The commission went along with it.
Yeah. So we good with that, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay. Next one.
Okay. Single-family residences built for vacation home rental. The commission's viewpoint was that any building permit can immediately apply for a vacation home rental after the final inspection of the single-family residential building permit has been issued.
That's a no from me.
I'm okay with it. This is one of those right to build as a property owner. That's what I feel. If they want to build it and it doesn't work well as a vacation home rental, they're going to rent it out or sell it. I mean, we've had one built this whole time that's been going on. One.
They've had some built like 2 stories in Indian Cove.
Well, I know. How many more of those have we had?
I think it's 4 or 5.
2-story. I know, Keith. Do we have a number of how many of these 2-story?
That's a separate discussion item than this one, but.
No, they were saying that was built from. That's what they're saying.
There have been a few. I don't know the exact amount.
Okay, I thought there was only one. That one, so.
That's the only one that we had in the hearing.
So, well, I'm still okay with somebody building a building and then decide how they're gonna use it. That's just me.
I think what most people have a problem with these purpose-built STRs, vacation home rentals, is that they don't have a residential character. They look out of place for the neighborhood. And so if we're not able to prevent them from being purpose-built VHRs, then maybe we should place requirements on the aesthetics of the building so that it has a residential character and it doesn't look out of place.
Well, do we want to kick that one back and let them revisit the what type of building? I can see what you're saying. You know, you don't want a 2-story, 5-bedroom.
Yeah.
But so in other words, make it if it's built as a resident. I don't know.
I think that's the best thing to do is kick it back. So we won't kick that one back.
Okay, so this is being referred back to the planning commission.
Yep.
And I'm gonna, and the city clerk can correct me if I'm wrong here, but since we're sending some of this back and some you're okay with and some you're changing, I don't think we can make an approval tonight.
Right.
Okay, so I just want to put it out there.
Okay.
National Park Buffer Zone. This was discussed at the Planning Commission. The National Park Buffer Zone and the general plan has to do with changing the zone of the underlying zone. So they're not changing the zone when they build so that was the commission's view that the National Park Buffer Zone does not apply to vacation home rentals.
Does not apply or
does not apply to vacation. In other words, you can still apply for a vacation home rental if you're in the National Park Buffer Zone.
I'm just against that. I think that's a terrible idea.
And I'm not defending, I'm explaining. No.
Not against you, sir.
The thought process was the policy of the National Park Buffer Zone has to do with with changing the zone. So you can't go from a 5-acre zone to a 2-acre zone because that's an increase in the density around the park. So,
No, I ain't with that one. Yeah, we got to kick that one back.
okay, you want to kick that one back to the planning commission.
Yeah.
Okay, density per neighborhood.
I don't know how we're going to figure that one
I mean, there's cities that do it all the time, and I like what some of the community members said is it's as simple as lots shouldn't touch each other. I think that's an easy way to handle that situation. An Airbnb, a vacation home rental, you can't apply for one if it's touching another parcel lot. You know, on Gorgonio alone, there's 4 VHRs in a row. Each of them are touching each other.
Just as food for thought, again, just to delve into the conversation, there are some parcels that have 4 neighbors and some parcels that have even more than that. So, for instance, again, I'm just picking out parcels at random. So this parcel borders all of these other ones. So it could be argued that this is at this particular parcel is at a disadvantage compared to this one. I mean, I'm just picking parcels out at random because this has fewer neighbors than that one.
Yeah, I think that's what was discussed at length because you just said it. If you have one there, then all of the other in that entire area wouldn't be able to do a VHR until that particular license was expired. So
Another example is this large parcel versus the smaller one. I mean, this one has all of these as neighbors, all of these as neighbors, all of those as neighbors. But this square here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
But some of these large parcels, though, they're not. I mean, what's going to go on these large parcels? Apartment buildings, like, are those homes on those
Well,
large?
this is the complexity we're getting into with some of the
Yeah, 'cause
density discussion.
some of those are like residential lots.
Well, I guess we can send this back and get recommendations on if it's either adjacent, if it's how many in 1 square foot area, I mean, we have the technology now to map all these, right? Where if somebody came in and said, I want to apply for a VHR, but you'd be able to go, well, there's 3 in this 10-acre area, so you have to wait. I mean, is that?
We do have advances in technology that weren't there before. No doubt about it, but it's also very dynamic. So
Right.
the numbers change day to day.
Right, but if they come in to apply today, yes, but if they want to really do it, they'll have to ask next week, hey, does anybody turn one in?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I guess that's what I would rather see more. This adjacent thing, we talked about that is really, that's a tough one. So, but I would like to know some info on as far as if we did it in a 10-acre or even in an acre, a mile by mile square. I would like some
We
feedback.
can, if this goes back to the planning commission, we can come up with several different ways of doing it and the pluses and minuses of each.
Yeah.
Well, I'd rather do that than us just spitball it up here and
Yeah.
just
Because
put it-
that's where we get into
Yes.
Yeah.
decisions that, I understand. The number of vacation home rentals per parcel. This can be a little confusing. I try not to make it confusing, but the idea here is you could have a primary and an accessory dwelling unit on the same parcel. We've had different approaches and applications that says I just want to permit the whole thing under one, and I just want to run rent the whole property as one. And other ones have come in and says we need to permit each of these structures separately. The recommendation is to put both of those scenarios into the development code. Staff, just if we want to choose one or the other, we just need to be very clear as to what is preferred. And if we allow both ways of doing it, then we can continue on.
I think both ways options are better in that situation.
Okay.
So that's the way it's written?
That's the way that's the way it is now.
Yeah.
Okay, next, conditions of approval. Like I had mentioned in the presentation, we are going to start issuing those once this is adopted. We've had situations where a 4-bedroom house turns into a 7-bedroom house all of a sudden. You know, when they rent out 7 rooms or sleeping areas, we're only allowed for a 4-bedroom house. And so we want to make this part of any sort of license, that they be very clear what they're approved for.
So what is it about this off-site parking though, with the paved parking? And I mean, where it says, in here it said you had to have paved if it's 2 off-site parking on paved, but if you live on a dirt road or you don't have a paved driveway.
We can revisit that if it's the council's direction.
Well, I think we should. That, to me, it's a little confusing, and plus it's gonna be really confusing to somebody in the public, and.
Yeah.
Okay, we can certainly revisit that.
The rest, you're right about the 4 bedrooms, and all of a sudden it's a 7-bedroom house. That definitely should be.
Yeah, and
that is definitely something we need to make sure it's not.
There was a comment about response times for nuisance complaints. We're doing the best we can to respond as soon as we can, given the limitations. So we're hesitant about changing the code, but we are committing to responding to noise complaints as soon as we can.
Do you have any figures on how many complaints we've had over, let's say, the last month or 6 months, 3 months?
I don't have it in front of me, but I can email
if you would please, and then I would, Mr. Mayor, could we ask staff to bring that back in the next, on the next meeting, that you have those kind of numbers for us? Thank you.
Okay.
Also, have we figured out a standard or policy how to report back to the person who made the complaint? Like,
yeah,
we figured that out.
We've had that request already. So yeah, we're working on a way to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And what was happening is some complainants didn't give us the information to respond to them, you know, and some didn't want to, want to remain anonymous, and yeah, we're figuring out a way to do that. Okay. Recreational vehicles. There was a discussion that there were times when a recreational vehicle was stored on the property and it was allowed to be used as a sleeping quarter by the VHR licensee. The discussion from the Planning Commission was you can keep the RV or other miscellaneous vehicles on the property, but you cannot be using them for sleeping quarters for your vacation rental license.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, because that increases it already. So we got 4 bedrooms, but now we got the motorhome too. So yes,
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay. There was a discussion about whether or not to allow other types of activities at a vacation rental, such as a temporary use permit or a film permit or something else. The idea here is there may have been a vacation rental may be used for instance, a wedding or a funeral or something like that. Again, this has just been more of a thought process and a scenario that came up. The commission's recommendation was that they can go ahead and still apply for weddings and things, family reunions and that kind of thing on these vacation rentals.
But they would need
they would have to have a
TUP.
separate permit for it.
So obviously, if it's a 2-bedroom house and they're going to tell you there's going to be 60 people there, that'd be a
problematic
right. Okay.
application. Okay. So you want to keep that as it is?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
The good neighbor class. This we've heard the discussions. Right now, the ordinance says you have to do an annual class. There is some discussion as to whether or not we can make that a shortened class. Like if you ever get a speeding ticket, you can just take an online course and zip through it that way, as opposed to the hour-and-a-half long class when you have to get an original license. We're up in the air about it. The commission decided to recommend that the classes are still needed on an annual basis, and they likened it to any other occupation having to do ongoing training.
Well, my take on this one is that they have to take it once, and once you've had the class, you don't take it again. Unless you get a violation, then you have, the next time that you're up for renewal, you have to take the class again.
Mhm.
That's, just taking it every year, I don't think that's necessary.
I agree. One time when you get your license, and then if you get a violation, then you got to take it again. Yeah. Okay.
I know I'm typing with an audience, so hang in there. That one's already, we've already did that one, and we did that one. And those have already been done. Okay, those are the topics that the city council asked us to review, and that's where we are.
All
It
right.
sounds like we need to send this back down to the planning commission.
Thank you very much. Everybody good?
I'm good.
Okay. Western Joshua trees.
Okay, so the state has come down and is offering the authority to local jurisdictions to administer the permitting of the taking and all that for Western Joshua trees. We are recommending as staff that remain at the state level as opposed to our local level. Since we don't have that many of them, and B, they're more of an expert than we are. So that's our recommendation. And that is in addition to our development code.
I'm okay with it.
We got to vote on that one.
You got to vote on that one.
Okay, open that up to the public. No green slips. Bring it back. Looking for a motion or
Okay.
further discussion.
I need to say something real quick.
Oh,
The
sorry.
ordinance number that I gave you earlier on the first one was wrong. It was 313, so I'm correcting that, and it will be in the minutes as corrected. So the
Okay.
next one will be 314.
314. Okay.
So you ready for motion? All right, I move that we accept ordinance 314, and that we exempt it from CEQA, adopt it to the development code for Western Joshua trees.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Scott?
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering?
Aye.
Mayor Wright?
Aye.
Approved for 401.
Okay, city clerk compensation.
Nope.
Number
One more.
12.
All right, skip one.
Yeah, number 12.
Oh,
We're having so much fun, yeah.
DTSP land use table. My fault.
Right. So again, a bit of an explanation here. The downtown specific plan as was adopted has a very brief cursory land use table that doesn't use the same language as the rest of our development code. What we're proposing is that we use the same language in all across all the zones to avoid any kind of confusion here. So if I can bring it up, and I can go into detail on these, but we're expanding the list. Again, we're not allowing any additional uses. It's more of a cleanup language to make everything consistent across all of the zones. So we are recommending that we find the project exempt from CEQA, adopt the ordinance, and approve the development code amendment. Introduce the ordinance.
315. Okay, open it to the public. Bring it back.
Well, I'm glad that we're getting all of those in. All the language will be the same. That will be very helpful for everyone.
That's been one of my goals.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 315, or introduce ordinance 315, approve the development code amendment number 230015, and exempt it from CEQA.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Mintz?
Yeah, aye.
Councilmember Scott?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering?
Aye.
Mayor Wright?
Aye.
Approved 401.
Okay, now number 13, city clerk compensation. Where am I at?
Thank you. Where we at? All right, Mr. Mayor, this is, the city clerk works directly for the council and no other staff members. Her review is performed by the city council. At the October 24th, 23 city council meeting, the city council conducted a performance evaluation of the city clerk during closed session. In light of the positive review, the city council gave the city clerk the city council is considering a 5% longevity increase to the clerk's compensation per the Brown Act. Formal action to approve such an increase must occur in open session. In addition, during the evaluation, the city council was discussed its expectations as the city clerk provide assistance to the interim city manager until the permanent city manager is hired. As a result, the council is also considering, wow, I have the wrong glasses. And it's You need tough. a big cursor. All right. Plus, I'm speed reading like you. All right. A temporary out-of-class pay increase of 5% to her base salary. This compensation must also be approved in open session pursuant to the Brown Act. Adoption of the recommended action would result in a 10% increase to the city clerk's current compensation, with 5% of that amount being temporary and terminating once the permanent city manager takes office.
All right, any discussion? I'm gonna open to the public first.
Oh, yeah.
Open to the public, no green slips. Bring it back. All right.
Well,
Discussion.
I guess obviously the 5% for the longevity that was discussed, and that was something that we agreed on, we talked about, and we have to vote on it today. The 5%, basically, I think that should be paid when she's working out of her work class. I mean, when she's not doing city clerk, when she has to fill in for the city manager. I mean, does that make sense as far as for that part of it, or?
I don't think everyone understands the limitations that our interim city manager's under with his
Right.
retirement, that he's only allowed so many hours total. So there's gonna be a lot of stuff that he has to do, and then there's some stuff for hours wise, she's gonna have to pick up a lot of that slack because of the hours to keep him engaged
Right.
as much. So I don't think the assistant city manager, I think a lot of people are looking at is like everyone does. I think Carrie and finance all assist the city manager, but she has to do some city manager stuff now
Right.
and be in some meetings that he can't be at due to his limitation on his retirement hours. So
Is that where we want to do the 5% when she's working as out of class?
well, that's gonna be hard to like. Just to check in. For this hour, I did city manager. This hour, I'm doing city. So it's kind of like, yeah, because this weekend was a big example of, even though it was a 4-day, 5-day weekend for some, I know he was working a lot because we were on the phone talking and being at events. And if she's working too, because she was working with some ball stuff information we had to work with. So they're all working these hours off normal hours. So how are we gonna dictate that and manage that? I mean, when they need it, they show up. They emails at 6 in the morning on Sundays from Mr. Bowden. So they're working. So I don't think we have to like crossing T's and dot I's because they're very engaged. So it's gonna be hard to know when the city manager and city clerk lines are blurring because we're being contacted by both of them on issues. I mean, so that's just how I look at it. Because
I think a lot of it is like you said, people don't realize that, Larry is under limitation. And so I think, the wording is a little bit different because she's actually being a city manager. So not necessarily just assisting. So, yeah. And I think it's, thinking about it, it would be hard for us to like say, well, okay, these hours and those hours. So that's, yeah, to a new, yeah. So I'm good with the 10.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues on this. And just as the background states, the city clerk works directly for the council, and that's a unique position. You know, there's only three staff members that I interact with. That's the city attorney, the city manager, and the city clerk. I don't interact with the other staff members. It's not our job.
Okay. I just wanted to just clarify it for myself. I mean,
Yeah. I interact with Carrie though, because I got my boy in her programs.
Can there still be comments?
Huh?
Can there still be comments?
Oh, I already
Or
closed.
past comments?
Yeah, we passed comment. Oh, no. Somebody had their hand up? No. Okay. All right. So I'm looking for a motion. Yeah. No, I don't have to. Yeah, we good. I'm looking for a motion.
Oh. I was like, what's
Nah, I need a motion. Y'all want me to make it?
I make a motion, I just read this, city clerk's compensation, city clerk's approve increase of city clerk's compensation of 5% for longevity pay and also 5% for assisting city manager during the interim process till we hire a full-time city manager.
Second. Roll call.
Councilmember Mintz,
aye.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 401.
All right. Public Arts Advisory Appointment. Yes. Y'all got the staff report for tonight.
Thank you very much. We are very excited that we would like to recommend Paul Razzo to join the PAC. We would like him to speak to you and tell you his qualifications. Is that fine with you?
Yes, we was gonna ask for that.
Hello, it's a pleasure to meet all of you. A couple of you already know me, most of you for the first time. Personally, I have my degree in graphic and web design. I've spent my whole life growing up here in the Inland Empire, past 5 years proudly in 49 Palms. Professionally, I've spent the last several years as a user experience designer, building study and writing tools for higher education, for Barnes & Noble Education. Locally, I run and operate Mojave Moon Apothecary, a historic plaza, with my partner. I also run Red Raven Trading Co., which is affiliated with the Mojave Flea Retail Collective in Yucca Valley. And I've done a lot of personal graphic design work around town. If you've ever had iPhoto Pizzas, that was the logo I did for them. So if you see the stickers up around town, that was me. You know, I'm been in this town, like I said, 5 years before everything went crazy, really. And it's been sort of mind-boggling to see how much the town has changed and sort of the pivot point that it's on. And it would just be such a privilege to be a part of that and find ways to help our community through the avenue of public arts.
Any questions for staff? Open it to the public. Any green slips? Bring it back. All right.
I just want to welcome Mr. Paul Razzo to the PAC committee.
We ain't voted yet.
Oh, I'm premature.
You want my glasses?
You got to make a motion. Yeah, there you go.
I make a motion that that the city council appoints Paul Razzo as standing member of the Public Arts Advisory Committee.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Mintz,
Aye.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 401.
All right, now.
Yeah. Now I want to just welcome Mr. Paul Razzo to the PAC committee. I've had the opportunity to meet him and visit his business down there in Old Plaza, the Plaza. What's it called? Old Plaza.
Yeah, Yucca.
Huh? Yeah. No, here in 29 Palms.
Oh,
Historic Plaza. Thank
Historic,
you.
okay.
And it's a beautiful place. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. Thank you.
I thought your business was in Yucca.
So my partner, we started Mojave Moon Apothecary here in Historic Plaza.
Okay.
That's her brand that she started. It's about 3 years old now. But we just moved into this space September 1st. And then we also have a vintage selling business that we run out of Yucca. So a lot of our old timers in town will know me from digging through their junk, or what they thought was junk.
All right. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right.
Welcome.
Right. Future initiated council items. Anybody? I have one. I want staff to figure out how we can give Food for Life $20,000 for their program. I need a second.
Second.
That's a program that feeds our hungry population, and they just went through a revamp. So they have new board members and things like that, but they need help getting reestablished. So,
Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that we also maybe move that to the top of the list since Christmas is coming. Our next meeting will be the first part of December. That
Okay.
staff could get back to us, that we could do it sooner than later.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
12.
Yeah. For vote. Okay.
For vote.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right.
Also on number 3, can you set up, Mr. Bowden, a meeting of sorts with the high school and junior high student council leadership?
Once again?
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
I forgot I was working.
Yeah, you're like, just answer.
Did you catch that?
I'll talk this.
Okay.
This is what, yeah. So you got,
Make sure that Boy Scouts included. All right. Public comments. This is the time for the public to address the city council on issues within the jurisdiction of the city council that are not on this agenda. All comments are to be directed to the city council and shall not consist of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during their comments. There is a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you haven't already done so, please fill out name and address slips and get them to the city clerk. The city council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. Public comments on specific agenda items will be deferred until consideration of the item on the agenda. And the green slips. Thomas Elkins.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm here to speak to you regarding a future council-initiated item that has been left on the agenda for several months. This is the one that the Mayor just brought up. While all the current future council-initiated items should be considered by the council soon, this specific agenda item holds a different type of urgency for me personally. This agenda item is the formation of a youth advisory council. I've spoken both to members of the council individually and the council as a whole on this item before. As a senior patrol leader of Boy Scout Troop 229, I hold the highest position of Scout-held responsibility in the troop. I've been a Boy Scout for 7 years, and I've seen firsthand the good that Boy Scouts can do for the community. I've also seen how the city and other groups, including but not limited to the Boy Scouts, often have a communications disconnect. This disconnect can and has caused a myriad of issues and ultimately leads to a lack of activism from the youth and from the youth organizations in this city. In the city of 29 Palms, we have the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts, the Young Marines, the Trail of Life USA, the American Heritage Girls, I believe Girl Scouts, and clubs at the high school, including the Interact Club, that are all active in the community and would seek to be more active in the community. These various organizations that have a focus on community service and duty to God and country would benefit immensely from having a council of their own that can directly liaison with the city. This council could help our youth organizations to coordinate with the city and each other, and we could very easily see a coordinated multi-organizational push for youth to be active in the community and to give back to this great city. I implore the City Council to revisit the Youth Advisory Council item, to invest in the youth and the community, and to facilitate greater cooperation and communication between the youth organizations serving 29 Palms. Thank you.
All right. Izzy Hargrove.
Good evening. Today I would like to talk about the Youth Advisory Committee. I think you should form a committee because it can help kids with their social skills. Children of our town have trouble talking to others or being in a public area, so forming an advisory committee can help a lot with social skills. It can also build confidence. For kids who lack confidence or have trouble with talking, a youth advisory committee could help kids to be more willing to try new things and take more positive risks, which can help with higher self-esteem. Having a youth advisory committee can help the kids have professionalism. This creates a unique learning opportunity for the young. That is why I think you should consider forming a youth advisory committee. I also think it would be a good idea to have banners of our local Marines and service members who grew up here. I personally would like to see a banner around town of locals who are in the service or are in the service, showing that hometown pride while celebrating our Marines and sailors would be uplifting to everyone and build stronger relations with the base. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We heard you. Susie Dick.
Well, as most of you know, I'm not a resident of Yucca Valley, but I mean, 29 Palms, I'm a resident of Yucca Valley. And I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we're having what we call a celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. And it's on December 16th from 10 a.m. in the morning till 6 p.m. at night. And basically, it's going to be nativities set up inside of a cultural hall or basketball court, and decorated with beautiful decorations, and we're going to have music all day long. So it's kind of a musical fest and nativity fest, or they call it a creche festival. We are setting it up so that when you walk through the door, you go through the cultural hall, and then you go out the back door. But before you go out, we want your children to go to this other, we call it a primary room, where they can actually play with the nativities, that they can draw color pictures, they'll see videos of the birth of Jesus Christ, and they'll also leave with a candy cane. We're so excited about this. We invite the community to bring their nativities if they'd like and display them in our cultural hall. And if anyone's interested in doing that, we ask that you bring them the day before on December 15th between 8 and 5 p.m. and then pick them up Saturday night between 6 and 7 p.m. And I have flyers if anybody's interested. And we're just excited. We've never done a community event, and we are opening up our church to the community, and we're inviting you. And we will be excited if you come. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Krushat.
The item I'm going to talk about is the National Park Buffer Zone. I think there was a little confusion. The National Park, and I think it needs to be brought out that and when you study what the National Park Buffer Zone is, and that you can't change the lot sizes, it doesn't mean you can't build in there. So you could build in the National Park Buffer Zone, and it can be a single-family house, it can be a long-term rental. To state that you can be this and this but not a short-term rental is a little bit nonsensical, because the building structure is already there. So the only thing I ask, I know that's coming back to the Planning Commission, we went through that, so all that I ask is that everybody do a little bit of homework on what the National Park Buffer Zone is. Thank you.
Susan Peplau.
Thank you again for your time, everyone. I actually just wanted to echo Mayor Wright's thought process on written letters. I think maybe to foster and kind of encourage other people who are unable to attend in person, but maybe doing like live stream or recorded stream, but have some input that they would like to share with the city council. Maybe some guidelines as to like what their letters of input should be, something that could be read within 3 minutes easily. I mean, I personally try to stick within like 400 and 450 words, which is typical for a 3-minute speech, and that's just something maybe to consider. Maybe it'll bring some other input from others without overloading you in some of these heavier sessions with like reading, these really long letters. So that's just an idea. Thanks.
Okay, I don't have any more green slips. We're going to move to city manager update.
It's busy. My update is I am just, I have been working pretty much full time to get caught up to speed. I am going to be cutting my hours. As I could go for the whole 960 as fast as I can get them, but that's not my goal.
Right.
So I do know that we are sending out the recruitment for a city manager on Monday. And that will run till I think it's the 6th of January, right in there. If we get applicants, which I think we will, you'll set interviews and you'll interview them. If you find someone that you like, then you can offer them a job. If you don't find anyone you like, we can go national. We already have a headhunter, as they're called, that will be available. And so the long term, it looks like I would feel like we should have a permanent city manager here in April. So that's where I'm trying to be sure that I can be here through April by cutting back to 25 to 30 hours a week, because I've reconned pretty well, and Thursdays seem to be a little lighter than the other days. So that could be a day where Cindy is the acting city manager. And that's the plan there. We do have the Christmas tree lighting coming up December the 5th.
Yep.
Other than that, I do have I will have some sewer updates for the next meeting. So we wanted to keep it light, but if we're going to have sewer updates, it probably might be crowded. But maybe we can tell everyone to talk like you read, and we can move them right along.
All right.
So that's it about that. If you got any questions, we're good to go.
Okay. Also want to make an announcement that we're going to do our Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem golf tournament on December 2nd. And for those of you that may not be aware, we do the golf tournament so that we can basically raise money so that we can buy toys and do a toy giveaway for our residents, for our children. So we encourage you to come join us, bring your team out there, 3 or 4 man team to the golf course right here in 29 Palms. And let's have a good time on December 2nd. We're going to have food there too that you can get and all that good stuff. So, oh, and there's no second meeting in November. Our next meeting is going to be in December because it's Thanksgiving. You know, some of us going to go get in a food coma. So, yeah, and that's it, right? So, meeting's adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.